You're listening to the Social Selling Simplified podcast. Stick around if you too are obsessed with learning things that actually work and believe that success leaves clues. We're all about identifying results-producing roadmaps and getting super clear on how to scale and grow your online business. From part-timer to president, social selling expert Ashley Shaw will help you connect the dots and take the guesswork out of what works to grow a social selling empire. It's time to hear from social selling legends, listen in on truthful conversations, and learn the best tips and tricks to reduce the marketing overwhelm so you can build the social selling business of your dreams. If you're ready to go all in, no holding back, and build the business you've always wanted, you're in the right place. Here's your host, educator, social selling guru, and fitness industry OG, Ashley Shaw.
Welcome to Social Selling Simplified. I'm your host, Ashley Shaw, and today I have a very special guest. So Brandi is a wife, a mom, and she's on a mission to help women create a life and business they love on their own terms by using her signature Scale with Simplicity system. In less than 18 months, Brandi was able to scale her online business to over $350,000, which gave her the freedom to not only retire her husband, but move to the white sandy beaches of St. Pete, Florida, and spend many days enjoying Disney with her husband and daughter. She wholeheartedly believes that we do not live in an either or world, and we can have our cake and eat it too. And she's also the host of the podcast Serve, Scale, Soar. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today, Brandi. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
So I wanted to tell just a little snippet of how Brandi and I actually met, because she has an incredible story. But when I first met Brandi, I'm not going to lie, I was intimidated because we met in a mastermind with Rick Mulready. And some of the stuff that Brandi was coming to the table with, just in terms of what she had done in her business with Facebook ads, and just the things she was bringing to the table, you just had so much value to add to the group. And you had done so much in such a short period of time. And I'm so excited to have you here today to be able to share more of your story and what you've done. But I'm really appreciative of you being here and chatting with us about all the things that have gotten you to your success today. So maybe we can just start with that. Let's start with your story. Now, I know for all the social sellers that are listening, the part about Mary Kay is going to be super interesting as well. But yeah, let's dive into your story.
Perfect. Before we do that, I always think it's so funny how masterminds work, because I came to the same mastermind and was like, oh my gosh, I'm like the dumbest person in the room. That's so funny how we all have different perspectives going into it, and we all bring different things to the table. And I think that's the true power of a mastermind. But absolutely, I really think that my journey started when I was like 5 years old selling lemonade at a lemonade stand in my front yard. And then I went to college, law school. I actually decided not to pursue law and instead got into direct sales and became a top Mary Kay sales director very quickly. And that was 6 years of my life. And then when I was 8 months pregnant, I was like, this isn't my life. I'm not sure what is, but this isn't the route for me anymore. And it was very surprising for everyone that I was just like leaving my identity, what I had come to know as my identity, behind without a plan in place. And then it came to a point when my daughter was 5 months old that we had to figure out a plan. Like the time was up and I had to figure something out. And that's when I found being an online service provider. So helping those who need help and working remotely for them. And now that I've grown my business, and from there, then I niched down to Facebook and Instagram ads, and I quickly scaled that business without a team. And I realized that this wasn't something that just like came about. It's something that's been in my DNA and how I work. And it's how I worked in college and then direct sales and then the online space. So I just put it all down and really realized like what has been able to be my way to scale any business that I've tried. And I don't deviate. the 4 same buckets keep coming up that have got me to where I am today. And I credit like each and every experience. So Mary Kay was such an amazing experience. I learned so much about marketing and like really that not Facebook ad marketing, but like that nitty gritty marketing. And it taught me so much about overcoming objectives and all of that. And so I'm so appreciative to that. But I love the online space so much.
Well, I think what's interesting and that a lot of my listeners will really appreciate is that, everyone has this story of I went to college and did this degree, something didn't feel right, and I went in a different direction. And the way that you've reinvented, or maybe not even a reinvention, but it's almost like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon each time with this new learned knowledge that you just bring into the next business. I just love that story of how you've been able to go through this recreation every time and just keep coming out on top. So I just think it provides so much hope for those out there that may feel like I'm stuck. I have this education. If I deviate in a different direction, I'm not sure how that's going to serve me, or everyone's going to second guess that. Was that a part of what you went through at all? Did you have people that were like, Brandi, you're a lawyer. What are you doing?
Yeah. So going from law school to Mary Kay, no one really understood that. Like they were like, wait, you could be, a lawyer. And that's what we say as little kids. Like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. And now you're saying like, wait, you want to drive a pink car? Like, we don't understand that. And it was just something where I knew that a 9-to-5 working 60 hours a week, that did not sound like a life that I wanted to live. And I really wanted to create something on my own terms. And I had no idea what would happen with Mary Kay, but I knew that it gave me options. And I always like to have options. And once that wasn't providing the options that I wanted anymore, and I had a lot of just different emotions around having a daughter and things like that, then it taught me though that I can do anything. So it didn't matter if I knew what the journey looked like, I could create something else and make it my own and have the options. And so I think that everything that we learn along the way and the choices we make. So college, my undergrad set me up to be really great at public speaking. And I always look at every situation as a learning experience and what can we take out of that. But yeah, and knowing that you can always pivot, like what you decide to do, if it doesn't work out, I mean, how many people have started some type of social selling or anything like that, and it just was a total flop? That doesn't mean the next thing's going to be a flop. It just means that you haven't found your thing yet, and being okay to pivot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I think the courage to know that the skills that you're gaining and everything along the way, it's just this savings account that just keeps adding up and adding up. Nothing is, a wrong turn or bad experience. You just keep adding it up and moving forward with it and learning from it. I love that. Looking at the work-life balance and all of that as a lawyer and really making that decision. I had a similar epiphany for myself when I was working in corporate in the fitness world and kind of thinking the values of what we sell and say to our members, work out, live healthy, it's all about balance. Like it was just none of that. And I couldn't picture myself continuing up. And same thing, I made that pivot because the values of being able to work from home, be with my husband, all of that just far outweighed it. It's just, I think, a good reminder for people to hear that it's totally worth it if you can figure out what you really want to do and going after that.
And we've definitely talked about this. I think knowing what your core values are. And so I was just so sick. I had been working nights and weekends since I was 14 because before college I was in restaurant, bartending, all that kind of stuff. And then that was my same journey with direct sales, as nights and weekends, and coming out and knowing like once having a baby, I did not want that to be my story anymore, and being okay pivoting, figuring out what that next story was.
Mm-hmm. And so can you help everyone understand what is it that you do now? How do you help people? And through your Serve, Scale, Soar, through your podcast, who do you like to help and what do you like to help them do?
Right. So I am a service provider myself. I think that's really important that I'm in the trenches. I know my audience so well, and that's running Facebook and Instagram ads. But then once I hit $19,000, and that was in April of 2019 on my own without a team, I was like, wow, like you don't have to do everything that all the gurus and everyone's telling you to do. But it does come down to like doing some main things. And so now I help other online service-based entrepreneurs scale their business without hiring a team. And so that's really who I'm serving now through my system, Scale with Simplicity.
I love that. So I want to talk more about Scale with Simplicity, how the system works and what those 4 buckets are, because I think there's a lot of social sellers out there. We love systems because it takes down the overwhelm. It makes things easy. So can you help us understand? I know you put together this system that helps you scale so quickly. And these were the 4 buckets that really helped you do that. So can you break it down for us, what you did and what this system is all about?
Yes. And it's so funny because this is what I did for online as a service provider. But then as we really like tore into this and like looked at my background, this is the exact same thing I did in Mary Kay to scale that so quickly. I'll go over the 4 buckets and then we can dive in. The first one is going to be, you have to decide who you're going to serve, and it's not serving everyone. So niching down is really important. The second step is you have to have systems for scalability. So you actually have to have systems in place, and they can be simple. They don't need to be like expensive or complicated. The third one is you have to spend time in your marketing minutes. And so we'll talk about what that looks like. And then the fourth one, that's when it's time to elevate your brand, elevate your services. And so the first one is really the first step. It's getting clear on who you serve. And no matter if you're an online service provider, a course creator, a social seller, a network marketer, when you get clear on who you're speaking to, everything becomes so much easier. So an example of this is now as a Facebook ad strategist, I only work with course creators who are in the upper 6 to 7 figures. In Mary Kay, I niched down to brides. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but I only serviced pretty much brides. That's who my whole messaging was around, is I help you feel wonderful for your wedding day. And I wasn't doing their makeup on their wedding day, but I was helping their skin leading up to their wedding day. So I got known. And when people I knew exactly what events I was going to attend. I knew what my website was going to look like. All my marketing, my events, they all looked the same because I knew who I was serving. So if you are someone who is working with like, your identity is usually who you're serving. Like if you look at it, or who you used to be. So I got into Mary Kay as a bride. So I was getting married. So I knew their pain points. I knew what they were going through. Now I help service providers because I am a service provider myself. And so looking at what does your story look like? So maybe you're a mom helping other moms get fit after having a baby. Like that's who you should be talking to, not everyone. So the first step is really deciding who you're going to serve and start speaking to them and their pain points. And so then the second one is going to be systems. I don't like overcomplicated systems. You need something that works for you. So for me now, it's ClickUp and Dubsado. That runs my whole business in Airtable. We have 3 systems that pretty much run the whole show, and they're all connected together. And we have a system in place for everything. So if it's sending an email, if it's a launch, if it's any of that. When I was in Mary Kay, I had systems for when a new client comes in, a new customer, this is what happens, and try to automate as much of that. So when I had a new one, then an email would go out, and then a 30-day, and then a 60 and a 90, and then postcards were automated to send out. So knowing like what systems can you put in place to create an amazing experience, and so you're out of the back end. So automating as much as possible and finding ones where you can run a lean business. I don't think systems have to be expensive, and you want to have a profitable business. So not having everything, but having the things that make the biggest impact. Then the third one is your marketing minutes. This is the most important and the one that people like to avoid the most, which is insane to me because this is where the majority of your income is going to come from, is your marketing minutes. And so in the online space, as a service provider, my marketing minutes looks like responding to job ops or getting on discovery calls, sales calls. When I was in Mary Kay, Those were getting on recruiting calls or spending time making calls to book appointments or doing parties or being at events. So my marketing minutes were where I was going to actually make income or income streamed from. That doesn't necessarily, and I say that there's a difference between passive and active marketing. There's a place for both of them, but the majority of your time should be spent in active marketing. So that is places like in Mary Kay would have been making booking calls. In my online business, it's getting on discovery calls, or in Mary Kay, it was recruiting calls, things like that. That's going to bring in, you're actively marketing and not like posting and crossing your fingers. Passive marketing would be posting a Instagram post and just hoping someone's going to reach out to you. There's a place for both of them. You need both of them, but the passive marketing can be so automated. Like Ashley has templates. That's an automated way to have that go out, and then you're scheduling them. Whereas active is you actually going out and doing things that are going to bring in income right away. The fourth one, once you've got those three nailed down, it's so important to have those strong foundation before you jump to the fourth one, because the fourth one's like the sexy one that everyone wants to get to, and that's elevate your services or elevate your brand. This is where you spend more time getting visible. You spend more time reaching out and getting on podcasts. You spend more time, like maybe this is when you invest in branding, or you invest in like templates. Not necessarily templates, but like expensive things that are going to make you stand out. T-shirts. I know that I've seen a lot of Beachbody coaches that brand themselves and they have T-shirts and things like that. That's the time that you focus on that. But you get that foundation. And then once you have that foundation, you have the consistent income coming in where you're not worried about cash flow. That's when it's time to elevate your brand and elevate your services to take it to the next level.
Brandi, I'm so in love with this because I am such a systems and template person. And this is like the easiest I've ever heard someone break this down. So thank you for doing that and sharing your system. I have a couple of questions just to help try to figure out what are some things that if we apply this to a social selling business, what are some actionables we can take from it? And I know the first question when we think about serve, this idea of niching down and who you serve. I know that there's going to be some social sellers out there, there always are, that are worried if they're out there thinking right now, you know, I already am having a hard time attracting my ideal customers. I don't know if I could say no to people that just want to come in and work with me now. So what would you say to them? How would you coach them up if that was their concern? And how does this still niching down work in their benefit?
Absolutely. So I'm a firm believer that if something's going to cause you like financial stress, you're never going to be able to get to the next level. So that doesn't mean that you're not going to take on people that come to you that are outside of your niche. However, all your messaging, your website, anything you're doing that is active marketing or passive marketing, it's all going to be speaking to that one that you want to serve. That doesn't mean you're going to get people that aren't in yours. So with Serve, Scale, Soar, it is for done for you service providers. So Facebook ad managers, virtual assistants. And do we get people who have group coaching programs in there? Even though I say like, hey, this is for people who work with one-on-one. Yes, we still get them, and that's totally okay. They get to come in the membership. They get loved on. They get value out of it, but that's not who I speak to. I don't speak to men, but we still have men in the membership. So those people are still going to be attracted to you, but my messaging is not for them. And so that is what I would say is like, I know it sounds scary to be like, oh, I'm just going to speak to this handful of people. But the way you get the best clients and customers is when you can speak to their pain points. And so an example of this is one of my previous clients was in essential oils, and she did such a good job selling her essential oils. And she actually never sold the essential oils on any social media. She spoke to her ideal person because she had lots of plants. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she was going through like really bad acne and fertility issues. And she shared that. And that's who her entire team was. They were all people who were very like clean eating, granola mamas. And she did have some people outside of that, but they related to her and they were able to connect with her on that level because that's what she shared. So we'll naturally attract the people that we used to be or that we are. So lean into that and speak to that.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard somebody break it down like that it's your messaging. That's what you need to think about. It's not about worrying about who's actually coming through the door, but when you sit down to write that messaging, think of that person. And I can only imagine that if I was, let's say, a fitness coach that wanted to focus on brides, it would be so cool to have your groups running on like, get fit for your big day. Those challenge groups would just attract the right people. If that was your niche and you love that, it's just, I love
and
that
they
idea.
stay with you. Like, it's not like after they get married. So when I worked with the brides, we worked together like 2 months before their wedding. And then they still worked with me throughout their wedding. And then even like after their wedding, they'd still buy products from me. It's not like you're losing them, but I could get excited about someone's big day because I remember being excited about mine and being able to talk to them like, oh my gosh, you're going through like the flowers and all of this stuff and be able to connect on them and have that passion. And now when I have other moms that are going through the same thing as me, I can connect to them on a deeper level. I understand what they're going through. And so all my messaging, my webinars, everything are about being a mom. And yes, we have a ton of people who don't have kids, but I'm speaking to those and they can see one day in the future, that's the life they want to create.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about systems here for a second. So you've talked about some of the things you were able to automate. So that was when somebody joins you, you have an automated email system that's going to send them sort of a welcome email. And then you're following up at those big touch points. So 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that sort of idea. What things would you include in those follow-ups?
Yeah, so I think that's so dependent on you and your business, but also the first 24 hours, no matter what your business is, the first 24 hours are the most crucial time. This is when you have the chance to really confirm that they made the right decision. And so what can you do in the first 24 hours to really wow them? So in Mary Kay, I would actually send like a big like email that had confetti and it was a bomb video. And I would use that. And I think this was when Bomb Bomb was first coming out. And I would send them one that was personalized. Now in my business, I send a Bonjoro, which is a free app as well. And I just let them know, like, you have made the right decision. I'm so glad you are here. Like, what personal touches can you add in that first 24 hours that just wows the pants off of them? And it may not even be like a video. For my clients, it's just getting them their questionnaire and first actionable steps within the first 24 hours. So they know that I'm on top of it for them. And they just need to know that they made the right decision with whatever they're deciding. And so what can you do? And then the follow-up after that really depends on what you're selling, but having something in place that's automated so you don't have to think about it.
Okay. Love that. And were there any other systems that made your life a lot easier, like outside of email? And you talked about postcards as well, being able to send those. Was there anything else that was really helpful?
I think anything that you can look at and you're doing over and over again, how can you automate that? But also trying to keep everything in one or two programs. There's so much software out here. And sometimes we look at it and we're like, oh, but we could use this one for free and then this one for free and we can zap all this stuff, like these automations. But like I said, built a multiple six-figure business using 3 programs. And it cost me less than $50 a month, but everything's streamlined and we're not worrying about everything has a place and it works together. No matter if you have a team, you don't have a team, what can everyone use to come together, and looking at what you're doing repeatedly and how can you automate that as much as possible. That's what's so important, is just actually taking time to slow down to automate things. And that way you can speed up, because if you're always sending out emails or social media, like with your templates, that's an example of automating something. You don't have to create it. Someone else is doing it for you. Then you just schedule it out. Do that once a month. Don't spend every day focused on that task.
Yeah, for sure. Going in and out of that zone of,
Right.
I've got to write a post and just get it all batched out at once.
Absolutely. Like even with, so Pinterest, if you're on Pinterest, spend one day scheduling out your entire month of pins, creating all those graphics. I know that with social media, I've been so bad about it. And so I just sat down 2 days ago and wrote out every single caption, created any graphics I needed. And I did it in, it took 5 hours, but guess what? I don't have to focus on any of that for the rest of the month. And that keeps me focused on the things in the business that are actually money-making activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. So let's talk about the marketing minutes here. So these are the things that are going to drive passive and active income. So what kind of things you had talked about getting on different calls and discovery calls and things like that? So what is the best way to think about this? Is it like getting in front of people with the idea that you want to convert them? Is that sort of the best way to think about it?
Yeah, so that's going to be the active marketing. And so what can you do? So in Mary Kay, we called it income producing activities. So think about like, so one example of this is for social sellers, like, are you doing an event that's gathering a bunch of people, whether it's a party, a networking thing? That would directly, if you are in there promoting your business, that is going to directly have an income result, or it should. Then that's where the majority of your marketing should take place. If you're running ads, that's active marketing because you're putting money in and you get money right back out. When it comes to passive marketing, which is like scheduling on Pinterest and posting on Instagram or things like that, that's more of you creating a brand. That's more of you like, and I'm not downplaying the impact that organic social media has, but it's very passive. Like you're putting something up and you're like, hey, cross my fingers. Hopefully someone messages me or clicks over to my website. There's a place for that in our marketing, but that's not where the majority of our time should be spent. So how can you get in front of your audience that's going to convert them? Yes. So if that's for, in Mary Kay, it was like recruiting calls or facial parties, things like that. Now it's either discovery calls with me, or if I'm doing something with my membership, it is running ads or a webinar, things that are going to directly convert people into paying me money.
For sure. So that could be a Facebook group. It could be a virtual event you're putting on, perhaps.
Absolutely. Where you're going to sell something at the end of it. Yes.
Okay.
Or you're overcoming objections in that. So like a webinar, I'm pitching at the end, but I'm also overcoming those objections, but there is a pitch.
Right. Okay. Perfect. That's a really good way to put it. There is a pitch in it regardless. And this is more of a question about what you were doing before with Mary Kay. Did you do any ad stuff back then?
So when I was doing Mary Kay, you couldn't do ads. I know there's like, you can now in a sense. So you just have to like toe that line and know what it is and what you can and can't do. And also it's not just Facebook, it's also what does your company allow you to do? So at that time, I was not running Facebook ads. My active marketing was pretty much my facial parties and any booth events that I was doing where I was getting names and numbers. And then, of course, recruiting calls where I would jump on and have someone join my team.
Okay, perfect. Love it. And then elevate your brand and your services. So at this point, money's flowing in, and this is about getting visible and upping your branding game. So this could be things, I think you had said, the t-shirts, really getting your branding out there so people know who you are. They start to recognize your brand. That's what it's about at that point.
And also if you're providing a service. So like for realtors, I have a realtor and she elevated her brand and services by adding add-ons. Like she does these like amazing parties, like viewing parties of homes and things like that, that are outside. She's selling $1 million homes. So it's outside of what other competitors are doing. So what can you do to stand out? And as a service provider, for me, it was going from organic social media management to Facebook and Instagram ads. So I'm elevating that service to the next level. So what can you do to separate yourself from your competition to really stand out in the crowd?
Love that. Okay. Amazing. And so in your story, Brandi, and how you scaled so quickly, you would say that these 4 things are what made the biggest difference then.
Yes. When I started focusing on these 4 things and stopped focusing on everything else, that's when the magic started happening. Because here's the thing, your email list is important, but you don't need big numbers. Your social media has its place, but you don't need big numbers to have a big impact. I think when we hit 6 figures, I had 400 people following me on Instagram and not a very big email list. So you don't have to have all the things. You just have to have the things that matter the most.
Love that. It's so interesting because I think there's a lot of noise out there about people. I see it all the time. They're so focused on Instagram and how do I get more followers? And, do you use what are you doing to get more followers? It's like 90% of the focus is in the wrong area there. It's not on really focusing your time on that top 5%, or in this case, having these things laid out for you. If your messaging isn't right, trying to serve everyone, none of your efforts are really going to add up to where you want to go. I love the breakdown of this and how easy it is to understand. And so, Brandi, if people want to find you, where's the best place to be able to follow you and to be able to find out more about what you do?
Absolutely. So my podcast, the Serve, Scale, Soar podcast, is definitely where I pop in every Tuesday, sharing tips on how to scale a service-based business. But a lot of times the tips apply to any business online or offline. And then the second place would be on Instagram. I don't post a ton. However, I do respond to every single one of my DMs personally. So that's at Brandi and Company. So BRANDI and Company, all spelled out. And I will always love to connect with my people on there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Brandi. I really appreciate your time today and sharing all of these tips with us.
Thank you so much, Ashley.
Now, if you're someone that has ever felt like you're doing all the things, you're consistent with posting, but sometimes you get caught up in I'm not really sure how to close. Or maybe you're sharing your journey just like you were told to do, but you aren't seeing that engagement and people wanting to move forward and learn more. Or maybe you feel you get so anxious when you're trying to get people to join, so you end up not inviting because it still feels way too salesy. Then you're definitely going to want to register for my upcoming training, the 4-part formula for inviting, without jumping on the Hey Girl hamster wheel. This training goes in depth into how to finally start creating those authentic relationships through a funnel. Now, this is like funnels 101. We're not going to get crazy here. We're just going to talk about 4 different parts that are going to help you start building authentic relationships with the right messaging that's going to automate that trust and rapport with your ideal customers, so you can really focus on building relationships after you've warmed up your audience. This training is going to teach you exactly how to fix your broken inviting process so that you can finally be heard. And not to mention, show you how successful social sellers are attracting people and doing it in a way that is authentic and really with authority. So make sure you register for the training by going to ashleyshaw.ca/training. That's ashleyshaw.ca/training. This is how you get your invite to it. So just go to that link and sign up, and all the details will come to you through your email. Thank you guys so much for listening. I will see you on the next episode of Social Selling Simplified.